I stood at the edge of the sidewalk, my phone clutched in one hand as I scrolled through the taxi app. The night had grown colder than I'd anticipated, and the warmth of the bar I'd just left was already fading from my skin. My breath fogged in the air as I tapped to confirm my ride. 10 minutes, the app told me. Just enough time for the tipsy haze to wear off, and for the unease I always felt being out late at night to settle in. I shifted from foot to foot, glancing around. The street was unusually quiet for a Saturday night. A few streetlights flickered overhead, casting long shadows across the empty pavement. I hugged myself, regretting that last drink. It wasn't just the alcohol. It was the feeling that something about tonight wasn't right. After what felt like much longer than 10 minutes, a taxi pulled up, its headlights illuminating the dark street. It was one of those older models, a bit worn down, but I was too cold and tired to care. I stepped toward the car and the window rolled down. "Need a ride?" the driver asked. I nodded and climbed into the back seat. The interior smelled faintly of cigarette smoke and something else, something musty and old. The driver was a middle-aged man, his face half hidden by the shadow of his cap. He glanced at me in the rearview mirror, his eyes catching mine for just a second too long before he looked away. "Where to?" he asked, his voice low and gravelly. I gave him my address, sinking into the seat and closing my eyes. The hum of the engine and the gentle rocking of the car were almost soothing at first. The streets passed by in a blur, darkened storefronts and dimly lit apartments. For a moment, I let myself relax, grateful to be heading home. But after a while, I opened my eyes and glanced out the window. We were still driving through a part of the city I didn't recognize. It wasn't completely unfamiliar, just a bit off, as if we were 1 or 2 streets away from where we should have been. "Are we almost there?" I asked, leaning forward a little. The driver didn't respond at first. His eyes flicked up to the rearview mirror, meeting mine briefly before focusing back on the road. "Almost," he said, his tone clipped. I sat back, frowning. Maybe I just lost track of time, but as the minutes dragged on, I started to feel that unease creeping back. The buildings outside the window were all starting to look the same. Low, dark storefronts, occasional alleyways cutting between them. We'd been driving in what felt like a loop for at least 10 minutes now. "Hey, I think we're going the wrong way," I said, more firmly this time. My heart started to race, though I couldn't pinpoint why. The driver didn't respond. His hands gripped the steering wheel tighter, and the car continued down the same eerily quiet streets. My pulse quickened. "I'm serious," I said, my voice rising. "We're not anywhere near my place. Where are you taking me?" Still no answer. A cold sweat broke out on the back of my neck. I reached for my phone, my fingers trembling as I unlocked it. The taxi app showed that the ride was still ongoing, but the little dot that represented the car wasn't moving on the map. It just hovered in the same spot, as if we'd never left. I glanced up, panic rising in my throat. "What the hell is going on? Let me out!" The driver's eyes met mine again in the mirror, and this time, there was something unsettling in them. Something cold, distant, like he was seeing through me rather than at me. "Calm down," he muttered, his voice low and flat. "We're almost there." But we weren't. I knew that now. We weren't going anywhere. I fumbled with the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. The lock wouldn't turn either. I tried the other side, but it was the same, sealed shut, trapping me inside. My heartbeat pounded in my ears as I slammed my fist against the glass. "Let me out," I screamed. The driver didn't even flinch. He just kept driving, his hands steady on the wheel, his eyes flicking back to the road as if my panic didn't concern him in the slightest. We passed another set of identical-looking buildings, and then another. It was like the city itself was warping, repeating the same stretch of road over and over. No matter how far we drove, nothing changed. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. Had he taken me to some abandoned part of the city? Were we driving in circles on purpose? Or was it something worse, something I couldn't explain? Desperation clawed at my chest. I grabbed my phone again, dialing 911 with trembling hands. But as soon as I hit call, the screen went black. Dead. No matter how many times I pressed the power button, it wouldn't turn back on. I was trapped. The driver's eyes met mine in the mirror one last time. This time, he smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was something dark, something knowing. "We're almost there," he said again, but now his voice was different. It was calm, assured, like he knew exactly where he was, taking me. And I realized then, with a sickening twist in my stomach, that wherever we were going, it wasn't anywhere I wanted to be. I slammed my fists against the windows, screaming for help, but there was no one there to hear me. The streets were empty.